Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you seasoned veterans of what we do around here. What we do around here is bring about conversations of a psychological, mental health, emotional health paradigm. Got over about 1,400 of these for your listening pleasure of a wide variety of topics. We try to add as often as we can, usually several times per week. And so we do that where we can. Please feel free to reach out. And so you can do that through Twitter at PO Perception. You can do that in the About Me section of this YouTube page. Either way, we'll get you in touch with me or a member of my team. We can make something happen from there. Signs of toxic love. The first thing is the other person expects you to give up on your needs, no matter what those needs are, whether they be financial, whether they be emotional, whether they be mental, whether they be physical needs. In other words, sacrificing food, sacrificing sleep. But basically, a toxic partner will expect you to give up on your individual needs, and they will start very simply at first and basically make it seem like you are unloving or unkind to them if you're not willing to make that sacrifice. The next thing is they'll be extremely hostile when you are willing to or wanting to say no to them. So that hostility generally ultimately breaks down into a very simplistic mentality. In other words, that hostility comes down to, hey, I'm not willing to, do this or that. And then the person turns on their original loved individual. This is because toxic love is about control more than it is partnership. And when a person feels that they are in a situation such as this, the need to please the other person trumps any sort of connection with the idea that, hey, the relationship needs to be equal, equitable, and healthy. The next thing there is overworking. So overworking or over-sacrificing in order to make the other person or the toxic person, the person who has many rules or a heavy agenda, to be compliant or consistent with what the other person wants. That becomes a continual challenge for a number of reasons and for a good long bit of time. In a lot of cases, it's never really a healthy situation, but often can become super problematic for a number of reasons. The next thing there is kind of the jealousy factor. When a person feels that jealousy is the center of what a person is willing to do or how things come together, it becomes problematic. A toxic person is most likely to be a jealous person. Jealousy, although it is a very common emotion, isn't actually an emotion that has a lot of good use in relationships. The possessiveness and the control brought through jealous behavior eventually leads to mistrust, distrust, and discomfort in relationships, which ultimately then leads to a breakdown in the communication or the honesty of communication between both parties in the relationship, which then leads to the further erosion of the emotional bond if there ever was a healthy emotional bond between both parties. The next thing is the resentment that comes from the affected party. So that level of resentment ultimately becomes a major situation of higher value there. That is to say that when a person feels that they are constantly being controlled or manipulated or kind of leaned upon in an unfriendly or unkind or abridged way, the abused person will most often, not always, but quite often feel resentful for a number of reasons, which at the end of the day is going to eventually cause the continued erosion of the relationship, as it were, in a manner that isn't very smart or good at all. The next thing there is ultimately that, and the final thing on this particular list is kind of looking at it from the level where the other person feels that they have to lie to maintain control. Obviously, control for the toxic person is a continual and consistent desire. So to have that control, to maintain that control, and or to make a person feel completely in control is something that the other person's looking at and looking for the ability to continue to do. So hopefully this is helpful. Keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Till next time, everybody.